Hello, and welcome to the first episode in a new series where I'll be trying to complete Terraria while only using boss drops. So first things first, I should go over the rules of this playthrough. I will be allowed to use boss drops, or things crafted exclusively from boss drops, for example, Crimson Armour or the Avenger Emblem. I'm also allowing myself to use consumables such as potions, life crystals and mana stars, and I'm going to limit my ammo to things like basic arrows and musket balls. I'm also allowing myself the use of starter tools because if not, then this playthrough would be over before it even started. I should stress that this goes for pretty much everything in the game, so that includes weapons, tools, accessories, armour, mounts, grappling hooks, fishing rods, just about anything you could think of. I'm only allowed to use it if it drops from a boss, or is crafted from something dropped from a boss. So the start of the game is going to be quite difficult because the only thing I can actually do before fighting a boss is get some potions and make an arena. So that's exactly what I do. I descend into the underground, do a bit of exploring, build a elevator, make some homes for NPCs, make a farm for herbs so I can make potions. I also grab some lava from the bottom layers of the world so that I can actually deal some damage to the first boss. And then with just about everything I can do before fighting King Slime, I spawn him. The first few attempts don't go too well. I end up taking more damage to the lava myself than King Slime does. But eventually I got into a bit of a system with it and was able to avoid taking damage myself. King Slime is actually quite easy to outrun, even just with a speed potion. It doesn't take too long for King Slime to burn to death, and I eventually get my first items. Luckily, from the first kill, I get the slimy saddle, which is what I'm going to need to use to fight the next boss, which is the Eye of Cthulhu. On the first attempt, I end up flying way too high and die to fall damage. However, on the second attempt, it actually goes quite successfully. This is quite a unique way to fight a boss, which I've never really done before, and it was really enjoyable. I'd definitely recommend it as a little challenge if you haven't done it before. The Eye, of course, drops the Shield of Cthulhu and some Crimtane ore, which gives us access to our first set of weapons. I craft the ores into bars, and then after some careful consideration, I craft the artery and the blood butcher for my first two weapons. With a much more consistent way to deal damage, I fight King Slime a few more times to get the slime hook, and then fight the Eye of Cthulhu again to get more Crimtane ore. After that, I construct a small arena in the Crimson and attempt to fight the Brain of Cthulhu. The first few attempts aren't successful, but these do give me enough tissue samples and Crimtane ore to craft the Crimson Armour and Meatball, which gives me the much needed edge to defeat the boss. After this, the playthrough slows down quite a bit, with me struggling against both Skeletron and Queen Bee before remembering that Deerclops exists. The fight against Deerclops goes much smoother, with me being able to use the slime mount to dodge most of his attacks. Damaging the boss using only the artery made it quite a slow fight, but eventually the Deerclops is defeated and I get access to a new accessory called the Bone Helm. It takes another few attempts to get some useful weapons in the form of the Weather Vane and Pneumatic Horn, which allows me to deal much more damage to Queen Bee and massively reduces the duration of the fight. Both these weapons do pretty good damage against Queen Bee, and as it was my first time using them I was quite impressed. However, my movement is still quite limited, which luckily is about to change with the honeyed goggles that the Queen Bee drops. It's quite rare for bosses to drop movement accessories, so I'll be relying on mounts like this for most of the playthrough. I use the beeswax dropped by Queen Bee to make some bee armour and a hornet staff. This, along with the bee gun and bee's knees, gives quite a nice upgrade to my DPS. I then build some NPC housing to get access to Pylons, and then spawn the Goblin Army, which I quickly take down with weapons that you usually wouldn't have access to when you fight the goblins. It doesn't take long to find the Goblin Tinkerer, and after reforging a few items, I challenge Skeletron. The Honeyed Goggles mount allows me to dodge this boss quite effectively, especially in Phase 2 when he starts shooting the Cursed Skull projectiles. The weapons dropped by Queen Bee make quick work of the boss, and before long I only have one boss left before Hardmode. My main concern against the Wall of Flesh is movement, so I reforge all my accessories to Quick, which required farming the Brain of Cthulhu for extra gold. After this, I construct a long bridge along Hell, and even place down sunflowers to further increase my speed. The fight itself goes quite well, with me using the Queen Bee mount to dodge most of the lasers. I use the bee gun at the start of the fight to deal massive damage to the hungry, then when the wall reaches a third of its health, I switch to bee nades. These have always been a great choice against the Wall of Flesh, and it's no different here. Despite the best efforts of the wall to catch up to me, I managed to keep my distance and eventually defeat it. Usually when entering hard mode there are hundreds of ways to upgrade yourself before you fight the next boss. However, in this playthrough I only have access to a few potions in the drops of the Wall of Flesh itself. I get to work fishing in the Hallowed so that I can make life force potions. However, I only have access to the flesh catcher in this playthrough, so it's quite slow work. Fishing is also the only way for me to make a mithril or orichalcum anvil before fighting Golem, as the only pickaxe upgrade I can get before him is the pickaxe axe, which requires a mithril anvil to craft. With my fishing completed, I take down the Wall of Flesh a few more times to get one each of the weapons and emblems that he drops. This gives me a few more options against the upcoming bosses, the first of which is Queen Slime. I construct a small arena in the Hallowed and begin the first of many attempts against the boss. With my only option for movement being the Queen Bee mount, this fight was absolutely ruthless. Phase 1 was fairly manageable, however once entering Phase 2 there were just way too many projectiles and minions to dodge. The fight quickly became overwhelming, and I just didn't have the manoeuvrability or speed to avoid taking damage. I could feel myself getting better at the fight though, so expanded my arena with another 2 layers of platforms and kept trying, knowing that it was possible. To my surprise, the larger arena is exactly what I needed, and on my first attempt after the expansion, I defeat the Queen Slime. This was a hollow victory however, as she dropped neither of the 2 items that I really needed to progress, those being the gelatinous pillion mount and the blade staff. With my only immediate upgrades being the volatile gelatin accessory and an incomplete armour set, I was forced to fight her again. And again, and again, and again, until finally she dropped the gelatinous pillion mount. After another few kills without getting the blade staff, I resort to using a recipe added by Fargo's Mutant mod, which converts the treasure bag straight into the blade staff, sacrificing any of the other drops I might have got. This was much preferred over fighting the Queen Slime again. With the blade staff obtained, I'm finally ready to take on the mechanical bosses. However, if you want to see that, you'll need to watch part 2, so make sure to subscribe so that you won't miss it when it comes out. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.